Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm finding out how many Amazons I need to beat Fairy Stockfish. The Amazon moves like a queen and a knight, and I will be adding one extra Amazon each game. Let's get started with game number 1. Alright, game number 1, I do start off with one Amazon, and as you can see, it is a very strong piece. Unfortunately, it has no other pieces to coordinate with, so it's going to be very difficult to set up actually a successful attack. Alright, we get pawn to e6. And to be completely frank, the only way I win this first game is if Stockfish blunders, which this is Stockfish. It will literally never blunder. We do get queen to f6, which, okay, pause, kind of almost looks like a blunder for a second, because if I do take this, obviously Fairy Stockfish would take back and have lost its queen, but I will have lost my only piece. You could also make the argument that this piece is definitely worth more than the queen, so even though traditionally losing the queen is like the worst thing that can happen, not only is this my only piece, it's worth more than a queen because it moves like a knight as well. I guess I can try and slide over to c4. I'm going to be targeting c7, which actually would be check. And after king to e7, queen takes c8 would actually be checkmate because I cover this escape square like a knight. And of course, Fairy Stockfish doesn't fall for something as trivial as that. Bishop d6 simply defends. And even though this piece moves like a rook on the files and ranks, moves like a bishop on the diagonals, and moves like a knight in the L shape. If you look at Fairy Stockfish's king, on the rank, it's defended, on the file, it's defended, on the diagonals, it's defended, and a knight's distance away, it is also defended. So that's it. I pretty much just have to wait for Fairy Stockfish to come and crush me. Nice, we get queen to e5, pins my Amazon to the king. I have no choice but to trade it off. And I think we know how this ends. With that, we do get checkmated and lose game number 1. Let's go ahead and add one extra Amazon. Alright, with two Amazons on the board, we have opened up a world of possibilities. Now, there are basically two squares that I'm going to keep my eye on. The first is the traditional f7. The only piece in the starting position anyways that defends f7 is the king. So immediately that's a weak square and a point of interest to try and coordinate these Amazons. The second square is c7. It is only defended by one piece, which is the queen, but if I were to land an Amazon safely on c7, it covers d8 like a queen, it checks the king like a knight, that would also be checkmate. Now, the ultimate power move would be hitting f7 and c7 at the same time, with two Amazons on each square. 2 because I need one extra Amazon since each of those squares has one defender already. So I think the first really natural move here is just Amazon to d5. The Amazon on f1 already looks at f7, so Amazon to d5, hits c7 like a knight, hits f7 like a queen. Alright, we get pawn to e6, and to be totally frank, I'm already kind of thinking there might be sacrificial ideas here. For example, were I to sacrifice this Amazon, the king is forced to take back. I can shuffle my other Amazon over, gives check like a knight, which means it can never be blocked. The king does actually have to move out of the way. The problem is once the king shuffles back, I don't see a follow through there. Something like check is just blocked by g6, and the king kind of just gets away. My concern is if I kind of hang out with the Amazons, I can target f7, I guess, anew by just shuffling over to e5, but I still have only one eye on c7. And what I don't want to do is continuously create a threat, let Fairy Stockfish defend against it, try and create another threat, and then eventually, at the end of, I don't know, a couple of moves, it's just fully developed and I've made no progress. So I do have to play a little bit explosively here. With that in mind, I'm still going to play Amazon to e5. I just think it's my best chance, looking directly at f7, and at least it keeps an eye on c7. Alright, whoa, pawn to f6. Okay, I'm gonna be honest, I was kind of expecting like knight to f6 or maybe, actually queen to f6 wouldn't have worked because Amazon to c7. But for whatever reason, it chooses to play pawn to f6 instead, which opens up this diagonal and hopefully opens up attacking possibilities. So I really could just give this check, and there's pawn to g6. I can't sacrifice on f6 quite yet because even though I have both eyes on it, Stockfish has two pieces on that square as well. The question is, what else can I actually do? Okay, maybe what I need to do is just slide back for a second. I'm going to keep an eye on c7 with this Amazon, but I feel like I've gotten so close that I'm just allowing these pawn pushes, which basically boot my Amazons right away. And we get pawn to c6. Now, I'm going to assume this is stopping Amazon to b5, which does seem like a pretty concrete threat, but it also kind of opens up these dark squares, which I'm just now noticing also means the queen can come out and play, which is kind of a problem because if that queen gives check, and then Stockfish finds a way to give check, in such a way that the queen is, for example, let's say the queen were on e5. Imagine this queen is on e5, the queen is defended, it's giving check, it's hitting one of these Amazons, and like we already talked about, the Amazon is definitely worth more than a queen, because it literally is a queen with the added movement of a knight. So if Stockfish finds a way to do that, then this is quickly going to turn into a very different game, I'd imagine. The question is how to follow through on these weakened dark squares. Maybe just like Amazon to f4? It does allow check if I move out of the way, maybe check here, but at that point I might even accept that sacrifice. Or rather, I would sacrifice my Amazon, and after a recapture, my own Amazon gets pretty deep into Stockfish's position there. So okay, we'll just keep piling up the Amazons, targeting weak squares. Okay, we do get check, but I'm still pretty confident that I'm right. I don't think I need to be afraid of this queen. In fact, I'm just going to shuffle the king over this way and hide it behind my Amazons. Wow, and we actually do get queen to e5. I'm going to imagine that Stockfish has then calculated a way to defend this position without its queen against one of my Amazons. Obviously, I do have to take this queen. My Amazons are skewered, or I guess pinned, depending on how you want to look at it. I would call this a skewer if they're equal value. We'll go ahead and take on e5. No-brainer response. The pawn does in fact take back. And of course, I will take with my Amazon as well. This looks really weak. I'm curious to see if it's going to find a way to defend this. Okay, we get pawn to d6. And this is starting to make a little more sense. Okay, I see. The bishops defend these pawns. And again, this position looks pretty Mickey Mouse. I mean, there's a lot of like empty spaces behind those pawns as well. But again, I'm down to one Amazon, so there's not like any way that I can double down on these weakened squares and actually follow through on those weaknesses. So I'll just hang out for a second. Knight to f6, okay. And again, we can kind of go back to looking at it from the king's perspective. On the rank, it's totally fine. On the file, this pawn is defended. On the diagonals, it's actually totally okay as well. On this diagonal because of the pawn, and on this one because there's literally no way for me to attack from any of these squares. And then knight's distance away, it's totally okay as well. I mean, c7 is a little bit weak, but even if I slide over, there's just b6. c6 is totally fine. There's not really a way that I can get into that position, but I will keep applying the pressure, and I'm going to try and force it to prove to me that not only can it defend itself, but it can defeat me in the process. Okay, it goes with something different. We get knight to a6, also covers c7, and I'm going to imagine once Stockfish decides that its position is totally fine and dandy, it's probably just going to push this pawn straight down the side of the board, and I'm probably going to be toast shortly after. Again, this is kind of turned into the first game where I have no attacking opportunities, so to be frank, we can probably speed through this as well. I'm going to keep my queen as active as possible, but I won't be surprised if Stockfish doesn't give way at any point. Okay, I've gotten rid of this pawn. I noticed that it had this pawn going for it and this pawn going for it, and I really didn't want to find out what would happen if there was a third pawn involved. So I came and captured it with my king, who has now found himself in quite the pickle. Bishop slides over. I mean, it does hit my Amazon, but I'm assuming that's not even the main point. I think the main point is to put me in check and continue to take away my king's squares. Let me try and pin this bishop with my own Amazon. It's really neat. I mean, you have to admire. I mean, I'm getting crushed here. I don't know why my king is 4 ranks ahead of the Amazon, but you have to admire the way that Stockfish just beautifully coordinates all of its pieces. Everything is super safe and secure, and somehow I'm getting fried up in the middle of the board as well. Instant check, so I'm assuming it has almost calculated mate, and that is, in fact, wow, beautiful checkmate there on b5. Let's go to move on to 3 Amazons. All right, 3 Amazons on the board. I am going to take a moment to calculate this without even making a move yet, because this has to be completely winning. This has to be already like forced mate, basically. The reason I say that, I have an Amazon on the C file, an Amazon on the F file. I already have 2 of these Amazons staring at the weakest squares on the board, and my intuition is telling me just play Amazon to d5, hit c7 twice, hits f7 twice, and I've never seen Stockfish resign, but this might be the first time because that's fully justified, I think, for resignation. So yeah, let's go ahead and centralize that Amazon. I mean, I literally think there's nothing that can be done about this. Okay. I've never seen such a random move from Stockfish. We literally just get pawn to f5. I mean, it's not even like pawn to e6, nothing even remotely reasonable. This is just a crash out move from Stockfish. I'm imagining I just take, queen takes back, Amazon takes, king moves up. Check. Knight f6. Wait, why is that kind of complicated? Hello? Wait, why is this kind of effective? Okay, wait. Maybe I'll take first. and then just rediscover the exact same problem. And maybe force it to play knight to f6. Yeah, let's take first, I think. Okay, it immediately plays knight to f6, so I guess that was the only line it had prepared. This still seems to make a lot of sense. Queen takes back, Amazon takes, king to f7. Wow, I was really sure this was already completely winning. I still think it's completely winning, but it's not as straightforward as I was imagining it to be. Oh wait, don't I just have Amazon to d8? Checks here, oh, king back to g8. Wow, it finds a way to be so incredibly pesky, I can't even put it into words. Okay, but this still has to be right. Check, it immediately takes back, check, he immediately moves the king out of the way. This still looks right. I mean, taking is probably also completely winning. We're at a point now where I think I can just take material and win, but it would be really cool to get like mate in like 7 or something. Check, king moves back. That looks right, but how do I get to f7? Shuffle the queen over, and then I just kind of wait and ask it the question, how on earth are you going to defend f7? Actually, I think more precise would be shuffling the Amazon this way, after the check and after king to g8, because in the case of h6, to create an escape square, I'm actually already covering it. So, okay, we'll play check here, only move, so it plays it instantly. Amazon over. A6, probably as good as absolutely any other move. And with that, we do checkmate Fairy Stockfish with 3 Amazons. If you guys did enjoy this video, please consider liking and subscribing. Let me know down below what other pieces I should try and play against Fairy Stockfish with. I know I got a lot of comments in the last video that I should try the fish again, but add the queen to the board this time. I'll be totally honest, I didn't think I was going to win with like 5 fish or whatever it was. That was pretty darn fast, but I'm a little hesitant to return to the exact same piece. So if you have any other recommendations, leave them down in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.